Welcome everyone, my name is Rigel and today we are finally doing my full review of Eurovision 2023. Now, this took a while because, for one, I had an exam on Tuesday on the week of recording this, which was about 3 days after the grand final. So, obviously I needed some time to study, even though, truth be told, I didn't really do too much studying, and truth be told, I also didn't do great in the exam, but what's done is done. Yeah, so I wanted to kind of focus on my exam a little bit more rather than diving straight into Eurovision content. And after that, I just kind of wanted to take a little break. So literally just 2 days straight, I was just doing nothing but eating and sleeping. So yeah, I just needed a little bit of a break because not just from the Eurovision season, but also just from real life, because this semester for me has been really hectic. So yeah, I just needed a little bit of a break, but now I'm back here. And also I needed time, obviously, to kind of gather all the data and stuff like that. So yeah, with that said, this is my full review of Eurovision 2023. As usual, or rather as last year, this will be split into several parts. I don't know how long each part is going to be compared to the parts from last year, because I've kind of learned to speak a little bit less now, so I don't know. But what I do know is that I'm going to split this into several parts. First off, this part is going to be the highlights of national finals, and then the hosting of the contest plus the first semi-final. And after that, I'll have an episode on the second semi-final, maybe that plus the grand final, depending on how long it is. I still have no idea as of recording this. And then after that, we have the trivia slash data, and then also general gossip and what's next. I don't know how I'm going to partition these, but just know that this is not going to be a one video kind of deal. So yeah, and there's a phrase that I haven't said in a while, but these, as you're probably able to tell, are absolutely not scripted, so I just kind of say what comes to mind. So yeah, with that said, let's get into the national finals. I'm not gonna go into every single one because that would take me hours again, but yeah, I'll go through some highlights. First off, Vidbir, which is of course the Ukrainian national selection. I think a lot of people would agree with me that Torchi weren't the best choice from the national final. But what they might disagree with me on is who the best choice is, because a lot of people were a big fan of When God Shut the Door by Jerry Hale, and I think I'm finally gonna come out and say it. What a mess! Like, it's trying to mash trap, rap, ethnic, and opera into one song, and it goes about as well as you'd imagine. So yeah, not really sure why the fans liked it so much, but yeah, it had a very like edgy song title, but beyond that, the song is a mess, frankly, and yeah, I'm glad that it didn't win. But what I did like, actually, was Kaliskova by Krutz. Now, I dare say it would have done better than Torchi in the final, certainly in jury. I don't know necessarily about the televote, but definitely in the jury it would have done better. But still, Torchi got 6th place, which is very respectable for Ukraine. So yeah, if that's it, let's move on to FIC, which is Festivali Kungus, which is Albania's national selection. In FIC, well, there were a few interesting things. I'll be honest, I didn't really watch a lot of it. I only watched like the performances of the favorites, and there were mostly 3, I think. And the one I want to talk about mostly is Stop by Fifi. Prior to the songs being released, a lot of people were hyping up Fifi because she has a big fan base in Albania, apparently, and also the fact that she was actually one of the co-songwriters for Ella by Andromache, of all things. So yeah, I think there were some expectations, certainly which were all pretty much shattered when the song came out. Yeah, there was that, and another thing I want to talk about, which is kind of hilarious, is the so-called opera edit of Stop by Fifi, which isn't an actual edit. It's more so there's this Twitter account called ESC Videos, which basically like screen records several national finals performances, and other videos, but mostly national final performances. And for Stop in particular, for some reason, the person who recorded it happened to have some other opera performance playing, and it's just it's just hilarious. And to hear Stop and then some soprano voice and then later a tenor voice in the back, just super weird. And person who recorded it agreed to keep it up, so you can actually still check it out. I'll leave a link in the description. It's super hilarious. So yeah, there was that. That was not my favorite, obviously. Stop by Fifi, nor was Do Ye. Actually, my favorite was Evita by Elsa Lila, but I do understand it was too long for Eurovision. I think it was 3 minutes 38 or something like that. So it would have had to be shortened for Eurovision had she won, which she didn't. So yeah, there's that. Yeah, that's Festival of Congress. I didn't really follow it too closely this year. Maybe I will next year. Who knows? With that said, chronologically, let's move to the Belgian Euro song, which turned quickly from bad idea to possibly the best idea ever. Because actually the idea is there. The concept of the national final is actually really nice, because it's not just a national final. It's also a little, like they said on the show, it's a kind of song club kind of thing, where each artist would perform their own song, and then the other artists could give like feedback on how to improve, and could also help them choose the song that they wanted, even though oftentimes they kind of the artists kind of just ignore that advice. But still, yeah, I think it was really nice in the sense that it created a rapport between the different artists, and like even to this day, I think Gala Drago refers to Shireen as her big sister, which is really, really nice. And it produced a 7th place, which is, by the way, Belgium's best result since City Lights, and Flanders' best result since I think 2010, which is Tom Dice. So yeah, a really, really good result for Belgium that came out of this national final. And even though Flanders isn't doing 2024, the people in charge at VRT are already talking about possibly bringing back Eurosong for 2025. So that's definitely something to look forward to. So yeah, actually something that was memed on for a lot of last year, which actually came out really good. It created a kind of support net between some of the artists, and it gave Belgium a 7th place, which is really not bad at all. So yeah, with that said, let's move on to MGP from Norway, just the first MGP that we'll talk about today. And there's not really much to talk about here, but there are a few artists that I would like to pick out. First off, the big one for me, Elsie Bay. She's been in MGP 2 years in a row now, and actually she's a great songwriter, but my problem is that she doesn't convey emotion when she sings. That was true last year, and that was true this year as well. And her songs are beautiful, don't get me wrong. I absolutely love them. I'm a big fan of these kinds of orchestral ballads. However, the way she sings just doesn't convey emotion to me personally. And yeah, so I don't really know what she'd need to do now to win MGP. I really hope I don't see her next year in MGP, because that would just be boring, frankly. Maybe just let her take a year or two off to kind of reevaluate what she has to do to bring something that the Norwegian public would like. And yeah, there's not really much else to be done. I don't want to see her in MGP next year, please. Although maybe she can write some songs. Certainly that other song that I can't remember the name of, that was nice. That was also in MGP, sung by that woman who was dressed in pink. I can't remember her name either. Yeah, so that was nice, but she herself doesn't convey enough emotion, I think, when singing. So that's my problem with Elsie Bay personally in MGP. Yeah, again, she's a great songwriter, but she doesn't convey enough emotion when singing. And there's two other things that I want to talk about. The first one is Freya by Maria Selin. When people first heard the snippet of it, people were like, oh my god, Eurovision winner. And then the staging turned out to be an entire disappointment. Her vocals as well were also pretty disappointing, if you ask me. And let's just say, had this gone to Eurovision, this definitely would not have gotten even near the top 5 that Alessandra did get. So yeah, I do still think it should have qualified to the MGP final, but maybe not. Just maybe not do as well in the final. So yeah, the final thing I want to talk about is the qualifiers announcement, which is freaking cruel. Basically they were literally just zooming in on every single participant and saying, did you qualify, did you not qualify? And yeah, again, that's just cruel, frankly, and it just leaves the artists there alone without any support. Well, to be fair, in MGP they don't really sit with their songwriters, not to my knowledge anyway, but still, I think, yeah, this current system of announcing qualifiers is just cruel, and yeah, it doesn't make for great TV, if you ask me. So yeah, yeah, that's MGP. Let's move on to the Irish Euro song, which is frankly a disaster. The highlights of it that I can remember are peanut butter giveaways, and also I think they were like giving away cash or something like that. Yeah, I will say for Connolly, the Midnight Summer Night, I did expect something darker in terms of staging rather than kind of a band setting. I expected maybe a little bit of smoke on the floor and then kind of dramatic lighting, I suppose. But still, I think for Connolly's first ever appearance at this kind of public singing event, she did very well. She wrote the song herself as well, which is super impressive. So yeah, I really do hope Connolly gets to be the Irish representative in a future year, because I think she was only like 17 or 19 or something like that, so she's got lots of years ahead of her. So I really do hope Connolly gets to represent Ireland one day. She's a great singer, her vocals are nice, and her song is nice. So yeah, Connolly is great. Yeah, that's really all I have to say about that. There was some other song where they added Irish at the end, and I think it was just unnecessary. All these people on Twitter are saying like, oh, Ireland should send a song in Irish because that would automatically make it better. And no, that's not how it works. What you have to do to get good results is to send a good song. It doesn't matter what language it is in. So yeah, that's all I really have to say for Ireland. You need to send something that's good and authentic to yourselves, even if it's not in the Irish language, because more and more people are writing songs in English, and that's fair enough. So with that said, let's move on to Denmark of all national finals. I'm not going to comment on any of the acts in the national final other than Søren Tubbergaard Lund. That was great. I'll be honest, had Søren Tubbergaard Lund actually won the national final, I think Denmark would have been up there fighting for the win, frankly, because there are some people calling it boring, but these kinds of people also call Omar Pelush boring, and that came, 300 plus points in the televote, so what do they know about boring, right? So yeah, I think this song really had a sprinkling of magic in it. It's like a kind of jazz ballad with a lot of hints of the olden days, if you will, but it was performed very tastefully, very simply actually, and I think that's good. It didn't really need much staging. I think if Denmark had the budget to put an entire room prop for Riley, I think they certainly would have been able to afford tighter camera cuts for Søren Tubbergaard Lund. In case you don't know which song I'm talking about Lia Her, which is that really slow ballad that stood out a mile among everything in the national final. But I've been told, not I've been told, but yeah, it didn't really qualify for the final. And some people suspect that was actually due to the DMGP voting app crashing during the national final. I don't know, but I really do hope we can see Søren Tubbergaard Lund return to the national final, because clearly they've got something special up their sleeves. And yeah, I think Lia Her, had it gone to Liverpool, it would have made a huge impact. It would have definitely qualified, I think, and once it did qualify, I think it would have done well in both jury and televote. But that's just what I think. With that said, let's move on to Lithuania, where we, of course, had Pabandomis Naujo. And the only thing I really have to say is Petunia. Petunia. Love of My Life was special. Looking back, I'm not sure it can win Eurovision now, had it gone to Liverpool. But certainly, I think it would have given Alika a run for her money. I don't know if it would have qualified even, but because that's two piano ballads, that's a little bit of conflict. But maybe we could have still gotten two sad girl ballads, sad girl piano ballads in the final, and then they would have had to kind of battle it out for jury points. So I don't know. I still think it was a really high quality song from Petunia, and it was so special in the sense that it was just so raw, frankly. It just sounded, it was just so bare on the track that it actually stood out in a positive way. For me, it was just really special, and I really hope Petunia returns to Pabandomis Naujo. Although I would personally prefer Ruda Loop to go to Eurovision. You remember Ruda Loop from 2022. I would like her to go to Eurovision, but we'll see what happens. In the meantime, let's move to another Baltic country, and that is Estonia, where, of course, the national final was Eesti Laul. Not much to say, although ironically, I think, to me, this was the strongest national final of the whole season. There were tons and tons of songs that I've saved onto my playlist from there, including Valik by Kav. That was very nice. The live vocals weren't quite there, but I think the energy certainly was, and it's a great song to still listen to. And and also You Need to Move On by Freddie, by Annette and Freddie. That was very nice as well. A nice piece of jazz. I really wish it had gone to the super final instead of Bedwetters, but in a way, I'm also thankful that Bedwetters got to the super final, because If they didn't, then there wouldn't be anyone stealing the rock vote away from Ali, and then Alika would not have won. And Alika was my favorite out of the three. So yeah, not gonna complain. But still, I really think Annette Jafredi got a pretty bad score, and I think they deserved better. So yeah, with that said, let's move across the Baltic Sea to Sweden, where of course we had Melodifestivalen, which some people still regard as the kind of premier national final of the season. I disagree. I think that's probably UMK now from Finland. I'm not really talking about UMK here because it was just good. There's not much to talk about. It's just high quality. Finland knows what they're doing, and we are going to Tampere in the next few years. Mark my words. Anyways, back to Sweden. One thing I want to talk about, and this will relate actually to one of my future videos. I want to talk about not so much most of the acts, but more the young acts, specifically Kiana and Teos. You'll notice that both of them did very well. I think they both qualified via the second chance round still, but in the final they did very well, actually better than some of the heat winners actually. Yeah, I think this, along with some other things, is actually a sign that Sweden could be returning to Junior Eurovision, but I'll get to that in a future video. But for now, I'll just say this: the young talent in Sweden are looking very good right now, and we'll just have to see what happens. Maybe Teos will be the first ever Swedish language act sent by Sweden in the 21st century. We'll have to see what happens there. With that said, let's move to the general hosting of the contest. And the first thing I want to talk about are the presenters. Of course, we had Alicia Dixon, Julia Sanina, Hannah Waddingham, and Graham Norton. And actually, I think this is one of the best sets of presenters that we've had in a few years. That, dare I say, even 2021 was not as good as this group. I will agree with people that Alicia Dixon was kind of the weak link of the bunch. The other ones were all really like charismatic, and don't get me wrong, Alicia Dixon was nice as well, but the other ones were just so much better. Yeah, especially Julia Sanina as well. She's actually surprisingly charismatic because, you know, a lot of us kind of associate her with just the hard kiss and associate her as just kind of an artist. And a lot of us maybe didn't expect that Julia Sanina would be such a competent presenter, but she is, and she handled it very well from the Ukrainian perspective. And Hannah Waddingham, you might as well just put her as one of the legendary presenters of all time, alongside Petra Mena from Sweden and Filomena Cautela from Portugal. Yeah, she's just amazing. She deals with ad hoc things very well. She deals with you know, kind of, yeah, I guess emergency situations very well. Yeah, she's always able to kind of crack a joke, I suppose, when something doesn't go as expected, perhaps. And Graham Norton is Graham Norton. If you're in the UK, or if you've watched those videos about Graham Norton, you know what his brand of sarcasm is like. So yeah, a really great set of presenters, I think. And yeah, with that said, let's move on to the city and the localness of the whole thing, because truth be told, I don't think I've seen a Eurovision this local. A lot of them may focus on the country as a whole, which is fair enough, but this Eurovision actually felt really Liverpool, not just UK, not just British. It felt really Liverpool. Of course, that is helped in no small part by the interval act, the Liverpool Songbook, which I'm going to talk about right now. And yeah, I put that photo of Cornelia there on purpose. That was by far my favorite part of the whole contest, including Lorraine. Yeah, no, this was crazy. like others have said, this looked like a winning performance, if we're being honest. There were several songs in the Liverpool songbook. And actually, I also quite enjoyed You Spin Me Round being performed by Netta. The Mahmood thing was okay. The Duncan Lawrence thing was okay. But yeah, my favorite by far from the Liverpool songbook was definitely Cornelia. That was crazy, frankly. A lot of people thirsting after on social media, and I don't blame them. So yeah, but back to the localness of the contest. I don't think I've seen a contest as local as Toy Toy Free. It didn't just feel British, it felt Liverpool, and I think that's really important. Of course, granted, you need to have a city with a rich musical history like Liverpool, but still, this contest did a really good job on part of BBC to showcase the rich musical heritage of Liverpool, and yeah, it's wonderful. And also, yeah, in general, just the entire city was very hyped up for the contest. You would see for example, Ukrainian flags everywhere in the lead up to the contest. A lot of different organizations also doing Eurovision related events like Eurovision fairies, for example, during which some interesting events transpired, let's just say. There's also gonna be like a Eurovision book contest or something like that. That's of course unofficial, but yeah, that's very interesting as well. So yeah, I really think this was one of the best contests that we've had. Some people even compare it to 2016, which I wouldn't know because I haven't watched 2016. So yeah, with that said, let's finally get into the results, starting with the first semi-final. Right. Like with last year, I'm mostly going to talk about the non-qualifiers here, rather than the qualifiers, because obviously we're going to see them again in the final, or we did see them again in the final, rather. But I will talk about their placements nonetheless. So yeah, let's go from bottom to top. Malta, I think this was the big shock. A lot of people actually pinned them as a possible qualifier before the show happened, and it turns out they didn't even get 5 points. A lot of people were thinking Azerbaijan would be last in the semi, or maybe Ireland, but neither of those happened, and it was actually Malta who came last in the semi. And I think this is due to a few factors. First off, obviously, it was just in the deaf slot. It was just super early. Second, this is the semi of deaf. It was just a really strong semi-final, and the later acts were bound to eat up a lot of the televote points. Thirdly is it's Malta, because it's Malta. They don't really have televote allies. I don't even think Italy is a televote ally for Malta, actually. And I'm not even sure Italy was voting in the semifinal. So yeah, they just didn't have televote friends, let's just say that. Another thing that some people are considering is that maybe the whole fun saxophone shtick has just gone out of fashion in Eurovision terms. I mean, we clearly saw that with Eat Your Salad last year. That also had a fun saxophone shtick, and it didn't qualify either. So maybe this is just becoming outdated in Eurovision terms, and maybe it's just us Eurofans who think otherwise. Certainly, I still see people calling Eat Your Salad robbed. I don't remember the other songs in the semi anymore, so no comments there. But yeah, maybe indeed the whole fun saxophone shtick is just out of fashion now for televoters. So maybe that's why they got last place. Nonetheless, not a very deserved last place, I feel. They certainly put a lot more energy, I think, into their performance than some of the other acts that didn't qualify. But yeah, let's move up one place, and 1 point, actually. And that's Azerbaijan. well, to be fair, I don't think anyone expected us to qualify. There were some weird camera cuts, which don't really make sense. The voicemail part was kind of cool. The broken heart structure that they were standing on was kind of random. And yeah, I don't think anyone expected us to qualify. And like I said earlier, when I was watching the performance, I really was hoping that after the high note they were actually gonna fade everything to black, pun intended now, but they didn't do that, and well, no one expected us to qualify, and it didn't. Still, I do hope Azerbaijan sticks with their streak of authenticity, because I think that is key now in getting good results. Let's move up one more place, and we have the Netherlands. I'm actually quite shocked by this, because a lot of people were saying, myself included, that if a ballot were to qualify, it would be either Netherlands or Switzerland, not both. And hey, that turned out to be true, but what I really am shocked about is the magnitude of difference between the two. You can see here, actually, Netherlands and Switzerland were differing by 90 whole points, despite Switzerland being substantially earlier in the running order than the Netherlands. You need to remember the Netherlands were second to last in the running order, while Switzerland was kind of smack dab in the middle. So yeah, I don't know. It's I think part of it is chemistry, part of it is their vocals. Actually, personally, I quite enjoyed it, but I guess people just didn't, and you know, fair enough. Will they go back to a national final? Who knows? We'll see what happens at this point. But with that said, let's move up another place to Ireland, which actually got its best ever result since 2018. And it certainly says something for this former Eurovision powerhouse, when their best result since 2018 was getting 12th place in the semi, while their kind of rival in terms of Eurovision wins just got another one and got second in the semi. So yeah, Ireland are just on a terrible streak right now. And yeah, actually, if you missed it, actually Ryan O'Shaughnessy, who of course was the last time Ireland qualified for the final, he actually posted a whole thread and revealed that actually somehow the producers that were hired by RTE wanted him to jump out of an exploding cake. You keep that in mind as you listen to his 2018 entry, which was this kind of heartfelt ballad. I don't know how an exploding cake fits into the whole story, but yeah, I think this kind of just goes to show RTE's incompetence at this point, and or indifference, because as other Eurovision fans from Ireland have said, this I think RTE just treats Eurovision mostly as 9 hours of cheap television rather than something that they should be taking seriously. And yeah, it's just, I really don't know how this got any points at all. Like, the one thing that we got out of it was the camel toe from Connor, because he was wearing that cat suit. Otherwise, it's just a disaster, and yeah, it's not looking good for Ireland unless they severely reform how they look at Eurovision as a whole. With that said, let's move on to my first heartbreak of this of the results, and that was Latvia. Yeah, I'm really sad about this. They were 3 points away from qualifying. 3 points. Should note, however, that 8 of those points, 8 of those 34 points actually came from the rest of the world, which I took part in. I gave them 20 points, I gave them 20 votes from the rest of the world, and I am proud to be one of the Ionators, if you want to call them that. Yeah, so at least I know that my votes didn't amount to nothing, but it's still sad that 2 of my favorite acts in this semifinal actually were both so borderline, and yeah, one had to miss out, and frankly, if Croatia had not been in the semi, Latvia probably would be going through. Serbia, Croatia or Switzerland, because there's actually a bunch of Serbs in Switzerland who are very active in voting for Serbia, so that's interesting. But had Switzerland or Croatia not been in the semi, or had Latvia been in the other semi with all the other Baltics, this probably would have qualified. And I'm just sad because this is by far the best entry from Latvia that I've watched. I haven't watched 2015 yet, so yeah. I really do hope Southern Lights return to Eurovision one day. I mean, they did it in 2018. They did Supernova in 2018. Certainly, they can do it again, right? So yeah, we'll have to see what happens. But in the meantime, I will definitely be following Southern Lights' future developments. With that said, let's move on to the actual qualifiers. And I'm not going to talk about the performances here again, but I will say I'm not surprised that Finland won the semi. I'm very happy that Czech Republic came fourth in the semi again. Hopefully that's a streak that they can keep up in the following years. Portugal, I actually expected to be 10th rather than Serbia, but I guess these two being 9 and 10 kind of makes sense. Croatia actually qualified less comfortably than I expected, because this actually popped out a lot between Ireland and Switzerland in the running order. But still, yeah, they qualified, and in hindsight, I maybe should not have been surprised. Norway was actually surprisingly low, if you ask me. They did open the show, definitely, but I think they should have been higher. And of course, they did get a very good televote in the final. You know, they kind of got shafted by the EBU for opening the show in the semi, so they got a pretty nice slot in the second half of the grand final. And yeah, Moldova coming 5th makes sense. Israel, I kind of hate to admit it, but it makes sense in terms of the running order and such. So that's this first semi-final. And for now, that's the end of this video, because I'm not going to talk about the second semi-final in this video. So hope you enjoyed my commentary so far. Like this video if you did. Subscribe so you don't miss my next video, which is going to review the second semi-final and possibly the grand final as well. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.